whom it may concern, be it known that I, Thomas Alva Edison, submits on this, the 27th day of January, 1880, the application of this abstract to the Patent Office of the United States of America. The unique design of my invention is that of a glass vacuum tube, which houses inside a thin cotton thread filament, the two lower ends of which secure respective posts, forming an arch shape. Details and schematic drawings follow exhibiting all aspects of the invention, but its purpose is simple: to give light to the Neon Crew podcast.
Boom.
Had to choose that one. There was a lot of different long pieces of dialogue that I could have picked from the IMDb quotes page, but I figured what better way than to use the opening narration that appears once and never appears again in the current war.
Yeah.
From our boy Benedict Cumberbatch.
I was trying to remember that. Yeah. Right at the beginning, huh?
Yeah, right at the start, and then never really comes back, but that's okay. I'm not going to bump up against it for that. But hello, everyone, and welcome to the 80th episode of the Neon Crew podcast. My name is Kyle.
I'm Mac.
How do you feel about us having 80 episodes? Does that does that fill you with happiness? Does it weigh down on you like a sorrow, like a dark cloud?
No, I think it's impressive that we've gotten 80 episodes.
I think it is impressive
Right?
that not only we've gotten 80 episodes, but that we've stayed mostly consistent with the episodes, the quality of episodes, and how often we put them out.
Yeah.
Only having a few hangups here and there due to scheduling, but
Yeah.
We're here.
The theme to success is consistency.
That is,
And it will happen.
yes, consistency and just, being stalwart in our pursuit of doing the same type of thing and hoping that it sticks. So
Yeah.
hopefully you guys still enjoy this. Thank you for sticking around this long. Here's to 100. What are we going to do for episode 100? It's like creeping up on us.
Breaking Bad.
You think so? You think that's the one where we break open the bad?
Whoa, yeah. There's two of us and half of 100. It's 50.
That is very true. Walter White's birthday, the very first episode.
Yep.
So possibly Breaking Bad. That is an idea. I'm not opposed to it at all.
Talking shows, not movies.
Yes.
That's what our new tagline will be.
Oh, we're changing the format. 100 episodes in, we're switching it up.
Consistency, my ass.
Yeah.
We're switching it up, bitches.
Yeah, fuck you guys, staying the same.
Yeah.
Get out of here. Oh my god. Could you imagine? We just talk about TV shows. That would take so long.
That'd be awful.
There'd be like an episode a month at most, at quickest.
Not get it. We'd have to do like seasons with how long we talk.
Yeah.
Like a season.
I haven't talked about it, but I've thought about recommending one season of a show before, and I still might. And I think you would be down for it, but it depends on the time.
It does.
And I'm not going to recommend it now that you're entrenched in like football and all this other stuff where, your time is very valuable and sparse. So not going to do it just yet. I'm going to wait until you have a lull in your
we got some time for entertainment. Let's fill it up.
Yeah. If you got time to kill.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be the day. But until then, we've got some movies to talk about.
We do.
And one of them is from our boy, Jeremy Saulnier.
Yes.
Rebel Ridge.
He sold out to Netflix, right?
Sold out is a harsh word, but...
Is it?
I wouldn't say entirely inaccurate. Yeah, he's a little Netflix boy now, because his last movie, Hold the Dark, came out on Netflix.
Yikes.
Oh, boy. So
have you seen that one?
I have seen that one. I actually watched it maybe half a year ago. I didn't hate it, but it is my least favorite out of his movies that I've seen. Like, it's got some stuff going for it, but it really just feels kind of meandering.
Yeah.
And almost
big time.
Almost pointless until you get to the very end where you just kind of go like, okay, what?
Yep.
Like, that's it.
There are a couple cool scenes in there.
Yeah, like the shootout scene is
the
very
shootout scene.
very fascinating. Especially as a scene that's almost set up as being like, oh, this is just going to be like a checklist on the stuff we need to accomplish.
Yeah.
And then it just stays there for a while and you're like, oh shit, no, this actually has like stakes to it. This like one shootout. Not to spoil Hold the Dark.
Yeah, you won't know. You won't even know when you get there.
Yeah. No, you won't. It kind of sneaks up on you. It's weird.
It does. Yeah.
Because you're like, whoa, where was this the rest of the film?
That's exactly.
Yeah. So I can summate this.
Okay.
I'm assuming you'll want to get the current war.
Yeah.
So Rebel Ridge 2024 is a crime action thriller film written, produced, directed, and edited by Jeremy Saulnier. It stars Aaron Pierre as Terry Richmond, who is a young, fit, eyes so beautiful you could get lost in them type of man.
Yeah.
Piercing into your
eyes.
soul. Very,
Yeah.
very blue eyes. He looks at you and sucks out your lungs. So then he's riding his bike through this town on his way to bail out his cousin so that he and his cousin can use the remaining money to buy a truck and then they can start life anew together. Well, then he gets sideswiped by a cop who's trying to pull him over. Terry has his headphones in so he doesn't hear him. Cop assumes, or at least tells him, that he was trying to evade the police. They detain him and they let him go, but they take his money that he was going to use for bail. And then the movie sort of spirals into a conflict between Terry and the police, whose chief is played by Don Johnson, Chief Sandy Byrne, and uncovers corruption with the help of Summer McBride, who is she's not an attorney. She's studying to be an attorney, a paralegal.
I think that's what they are. I was trying to think the correct term. I think it's paralegal.
Yeah, played by Anna Sophia Robb. So, spoilers for Rebel Ridge. We're going to get into it.
Yep.
I threw this film out partially because I knew that, with doing the podcast and you being a busy boy, it's helpful whenever we do get the chance to talk about a new movie that comes out to streaming that might be interesting to discuss.
Yeah.
And especially because this is Jeremy Saulnier, who I feel like is one of the first directors you and I really kind of connected over discussing, even before we started the podcast.
Yeah. Well, Green Room and Blue Ruin.
I remember you telling me to watch Blue Ruin.
Yeah.
And I had already watched Green Room when we met.
Yep.
And I told you how much I loved it. And you're like, okay, well, if you really liked Green Room, then you should check out Blue Ruin. Yeah. And I checked it out, and I really do enjoy that movie.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same pacing that Green Room has.
Doesn't have the same pacing that Green Room has.
Probably not even close, but
it does have a similar DNA of, oh, this is like really grounded, weighty thriller that doesn't feel flashy. It doesn't feel like it's really like sort of putting the action of it in your face and kind of rubbing your nose in it.
Right.
This sort of feels like, okay, this has some weight to it. This is maybe what it would be like to be in a situation like this. It's got like this realism and sort of pulp to it.
There's a lot of there's a lot of tracking shots, and there's a lot of I don't want to say stagnation, but just kind of following the characters in the moment. Like you said, it grounds it a little bit, and you feel the weight of like what's at stake, and it's not very high stakes except to this character in that movie, at least.
Yeah,
which is. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, Blue Ruin especially feels like a quiet thriller.
Yes.
Like, it feels very meditative and takes its time with sort of building the tension until the very end.
Yes.
And then you get something like Green Room, which is like, from the word go, once they're in the room, the stakes are high and they don't let down.
Nope.
Like, it just maintains that the entire time. And it's so locked in. And I think that's what I love about that movie the most specifically, is because it just doesn't let go of what's at stake.
Yes.
And then you get something like Hold the Dark, which is the most different, I would say, out of all of his films that he's come out with. Right?
Without a doubt. I think there's another one called Murder Party that he did.
Was that him or was that Macon Blair?
Oh. See, they were like connected at the hip, and I think Saulnier used, I don't know if Macon Blair, maybe he did direct it.
Maybe. I can look it up.
Okay. So you got that, and then there's another one that I don't feel at home in this world anymore.
That was Macon Blair.
That
I know
was
for sure.
okay. So Macon Blair did do that one because I know those two guys I used to get confused all the time. And Macon Blair's actually been in some other movies outside of Saulnier movies.
Yeah, like he was in Oppenheimer. He was one of the attorneys at the disposition.
Yes.
Murder Party is directed by Saulnier, so you were correct. I haven't seen that one.
I haven't either. I heard it's really fun though.
I would like to check it out. He's, I think, the star.
Yep.
Let me go back to it and confirm. He's third billed.
Third billed.
But he's the only one on there with a Wikipedia page, if that tells you anything.
That's what I'm kind of hinting at.
Because I think Murder Party was his first feature, right?
That's what I'm pretty sure too. That's why. And then I think he got Blue Ruin, and then he got a little bit more money for Green Room.
Yeah. This movie specifically feels like
Rebel Ridge.
Yes, Rebel Ridge.
Yeah.
It feels a lot more of the vein of Blue Ruin than it does any of his other films. Would you agree? It feels like this kind of has that similar pace of, okay, things are ramping up and then they kind of settle down.
Yep.
And then
yes,
it takes a bit of a slower burn to get to where it's going. And then once it does get there, the stakes ramp up really, really high. And I haven't watched Blue Ruin in a long time, so I don't exactly remember what the pacing of that movie was.
Yeah, I think the last time I saw it was when I recommended it to you.
Which was probably like, 4 years ago, maybe more?
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
So to me, this one sort of reminded me of like, oh, this kind of has that feel of this character navigating this space. It's a little more open, obviously, than Green Room. So there's more room to breathe, but at the same time, there is that sense of danger around every corner. And I don't know, I really enjoyed this movie. I do have like a couple hangups here and there, but as far as like a Jeremy Saulnier thriller film, I think that this hits the mark. Yeah. And I'm curious what you think.
When I watched it with Jasmine, and I really liked the writing. I liked how I really thought it was a smooth setup. And it's not entirely, I mean, it's a little confusing on kind of like why they're doing it, but it's at least built in and it's very logical to me. And I think that's kind of where I fit in with movies, at least of this ilk, is it's got to be somewhat logical. It can't just be like, hey, I didn't like that guy, so I shot him and now I'm going to take on the town or whatever it is. There's got to be a little bit of a, so I like that.
This feels like slightly smarter First Blood.
Yes, exactly. And, I got hung up a little bit and I was thinking about it today because I haven't thought about this film since I've watched it. It feels like Saulnier has like his DNA in there and then there's like Netflix over his shoulder DNA.
Interesting.
Like a lot of I really was hoping that we'd get more of the hand-to-hand combat stuff. And he teases it and then he never unleashes it. And I really felt like some of this stuff is because it's on Netflix. They're like, remember, you're a third party on this film. Mm-hmm. Even though you're directing it, you've got us. We're going to make sure that the consumer wants it. And then you got the consumer. And if it's too much of this or that, you're going to really pigeonhole yourself into who's seeing this thing. So it's got to maintain a demographic that a lot of parties can, enjoy this. Mm-hmm. And I think that held it up just a little bit. Overall, yeah, this is a fine film.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when you're watching something and you see someone that's being constrained a little bit and you're like, I wonder if we just didn't have anyone, a free autonomy, what could that guy do with this? Mm-hmm. And when you talk about the tone of this thing and the pacing of it, and it would kind of build up and crescendo, and then it's a ease down, then crescendo and ease back down. A lot of it would build up with some really smart writing and logical steps, and then it would ease back down with like, hey, you're getting too far ahead of yourselves. Mm. Party B watching this.
Like it almost feels like there's too much of a safety net there in place for when things get a little too exciting.
Yeah. Like I bet you he could come up with some really fantastical things that occur, or like, just ways of getting out of trouble, right? Mm-hmm. Using the hand-to-hand martial arts combat stuff. And they never dive into it.
And I think, what you're sort of touching on is in part of like what I sort of have an issue with as far as like that middle act with the pacing.
Yes.
Because I think, like you said, the setup is really good.
Yes.
With the slow burn of like the animosity towards the police officers and like the corruption of that whole department.
Yep.
And then I really do like the end scene and how that caps off. But then that middle section where he and Anna Sophia Robb are having a back and forth, and there's like, okay, they're running around in all these different places and trying to hide and do things sneakily. I feel like there was a lot more moments that they could have added that really would have not only emphasized like the resourcefulness of the character, but the scrappiness as well.
Yeah.
The best thing that I love about something like Green Room is just how the characters are just barely scraping by and resourceful in the actions that they do. And sometimes it fucks up for them and they fail.
Yeah. And it could have happened in this. Like he's got that's. Oh my God! I just thought they fumbled it so bad because they lead off with this guy and they do a great job of like, why is this guy so dangerous? You know, and in Rambo, he's a Green Beret. So they're obviously like, all right, let's not make him Green Beret. But then they find out he's teaching like Navy SEALs.
It's hard not to think of Rambo when you watch this movie.
Yeah. But we got to make him a really ultimate badass, right? So like, oh, he teaches the Navy SEAL guys how to do hand-to-hand combat.
And he can't just be like a meathead. He has to be someone who is like tactical, smart, thoughtful, uses all options before he resorts to violence, which I do love that attribute about his character.
I mean, even if he doesn't, I mean, like when he has to resort to they didn't give me enough of it. And that's where, like, when you talk about scrappy and resourceful, there's nothing more scrappy and resourceful than using your hands when you're protecting yourself or trying to take someone down. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the last means of whatever you got, especially if someone has a gun, is like, you're going to go into a gunfight with a knife? It's like, no, you take out the knife. Now you just got your hands. Like, how crazy is that? Like, all right, now he's got to get out of these situations. And I just feel like Saulnier had, it feels like he had other ideas in mind. And then, like, Netflix came in and said, don't do that. You know, and I don't know. The one when he's outside the station, right? And Jasmine's watching it with me, and you know, I told her, I said, just be ready. I don't know how you feel about bones popping out and this and that, you know. And she's like, why? I was like, this guy kind of does that stuff. He's a little gratuitous with some of the violence, you know, and he uses it in entertaining ways. Mm-hmm. And he does it the one time, like grabs an officer, snaps his elbow or whatever. And she's like, oh, and I was like, there you go. Wait till there's gonna be so much more of this. And I kind of was like, yeah, never came back.
See, I kind of like how reserved it is, though, because it sort of emphasizes the nature of his character of like, I am going to do everything I can to fight against my violent tendencies and to try to find the absolute best possible solution before I'm pushed to violence. And even then, I'm not going to kill anybody. I'm not going to take anybody out permanently. Yeah. It's going to be something that I have to struggle with in every single fight I get in.
Take out the 50 police officers at the very end with Don Johnson. Put down 6 dudes. Mm-hmm. You could have a John Wick-esque fight in there where he doesn't have to eliminate anyone. And it would have been very interesting to see how does he get out of all these things. And now we get to see his background. I mean...
it would have allowed and I agree with you that it would have allowed the creativity of that sort of approach of combat to really flourish in those types of scenes. I don't know if you've ever played the video game Dishonored 2. There is, I only bring it up because in that game you can go through the entire game without killing anyone. Mm-hmm. And the gameplay had been updated from the first game in a lot of different ways to allow very creative ways to dispatch enemies without killing them. Yeah. And something like that in this movie, I think really would have been exciting to see, not just in that scene, but in scenes throughout most of the film.
That's what I'm agreeing. That I'm saying they could have did a better approach. I'm not saying the film is taken down because of that. I just feel like someone else was stepping in and say, hold on. Let's tone it back.
They said, "Hold the dark."
Yeah. Remember that one? You got your shootout in that.
So bring the light.
Yeah, you get your one bone crack, and that's it, Jeremy. You know, and that's why I think this thing could have been a lot more fun. You know, not to say that it wasn't fun. I just think it did not reach the heights that it had potential for, and I think it's unfortunate that they set up his character as such. Like, if you don't want him to be too violent or whatever. Don't have him like the military combat guy that Set up something else. Set up something else where it makes more sense that, you know, he's a UN Green Beret or whatever, so he has no idea what it means to kill someone.
I do really like his character though, and we can sort of get into that. So I think as far as protagonists in Jeremy Saulnier movies, including Green Room, which I think is my number one of his, I feel like this character is probably my favorite in any of the films that I've seen, because he displays such a level of cool and confidence throughout most of the runtime that is very admirable. I love it when I watch movies and the characters have such control over what's going on and are so, like, they're such experts in what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's the thing I love about Heat. It's the thing I love about Collateral, a lot of Michael Mann movies.
Yes.
And it's the thing I love about this movie is Aaron Pierre portraying this character with such confidence and just like coolness, for lack of a better word, that it really just draws me in. And I'm wondering if you think the same, or if you're just sort of like, oh, I take it or leave it kind of guy.
No. I really liked, probably in terms of character. I mean, him and Don Johnson, I thought were fun the whole time.
Don Johnson's very good in this movie too.
Like I like that. I liked his, I would call it quiet anger, you know, and I really like it because it's how I kind of feel in football stuff where it's like, hey, you fucked up. Now you're about to get the noise, you know, where it's not like the hoorah and the pound on the chest or the quiet staring. It's just like calmly saying like, you've unlocked me. Yeah. You know, and I thought he did a great job in that. And, his portrayal of the character being cool. I thought he was a little one note for me. I never got to see too much of that emotional ride. Sure. And given the character, you're not going to get that. But I also think it's just probably because he's a young actor, and that's, hey, we'll make you kind of, I don't want to say stagnant. You're going to beat around the bush with some of your body language as opposed to being like what you say or vocalize. So I truly, by like the third act, I was like, all right, like I kind of want to see this guy get pissed off or something, or be put in a position where I feel like he could fail. Right. You know, and that never happened.
No, the closest you get is towards the end when he realizes that Officer Sims, that's her name. Yeah. He gave her the gun and it turns out she wasn't on his side initially. Yes. And it's like the moment in which he fucks up the most in the film is like this poor lapse of judgment. But then it's immediately sort of rectified when it's revealed that David Denman, who plays Officer Evan Marston, who's the one who initiates the conflict at the beginning of the movie, by the way, it turns out he's the one who's Serpico and is on his side now. Which is quite the character flip. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that.
I
feel like it's just an added sort of like eyebrow raise in order to make the stakes a little bit more spicy.
I'm curious because I'm gonna be curious about the ending because I had a hard time remembering how this thing even ended until I was driving to work today. Like I had this thing, I was trying to remember all this stuff, and I get to work and I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And I just thought, oh yeah, I really did not like the ending because not only is it a character flip, it's a story flip. I mean, it is. They never once. Okay. Don Johnson's the bad guy. Okay. And I will say this. They did a great job with social injustice in this thing because Jasmine was 6 minutes into this thing. Like, I really don't want to watch this. This makes me so anxious. She goes, I really hate
They do a good injustice. Job of mirroring police sentiment in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and and racial profiling, discrimination, and then how can we get money
the language around that?
There are a lot of themes in this, but they never once make Don Johnson feel like he is the tycoon of the town,
right? And they almost look pathetic, like in the way that they carry themselves. How they dress, how they act.
But and he's supposed to be the ringleader, right? It was his idea, so he's the one doing it. Well, go like 4 brothers on me and show this guy where Don Johnson's like, hey, Tim, guess what? That 10's going to come back to me. Okay? Like, you got to have something where these people are like, all right, he is a dick of all dicks. Like, we're just along for the ride because of what we do for the town and we're not in his way. They never give that. So by the end of this thing, when they get to the climax of it, everyone just is like, hey, that guy was right. Yeah, he was right. Let's get him out of here, boys.
Yeah, it feels like a very convenient turn. Like all these pissed off officers that are chasing him, trying to kill him, all of a sudden are like, "Oh, we're gonna escort you to the hospital.
We got you, pal."
Yeah,
like I was like, okay, like I like that it ended, in a positive light. Like,
right. I enjoy the ending. It's just the way that it gets from A to B.
Oh man,
is a flip of a light switch.
Like Denham comes in there and he's like, "Hey, all right, we did fuck you over, man. I'm gonna help you out. That guy's dirty and white trash. Videotape me. By the way, these things record 3 minutes prior to, so if that dash cam, turn it on. It's in the back. Yeah, I'm gonna bleed out, man, but you just keep going." And I'm like, the fuck, this guy, he was in it for the split hair second in the beginning, and then he comes back in and it's like, hey, we'll just make that guy good. Like, he sees the right and wrong of it, even though he knows he's robbing people.
Right.
And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I think, is this, like, what is Don Johnson's best performance? Because I really like him in this movie as, like, a smarmy asshole police chief. I knew you were going to say Cold in July.
Love him in Cold in July.
I know you do. And I will admit, when he shows up in that movie, the movie gets juice.
It does. Like, and that you can't, if a bad actor does that, it doesn't get juice. He brings that to the table. And it's not like just the writing for him. He's fun in it.
Yeah. To me, that movie's like almost a stagnant roller coaster. And then when he shows up, he kicks it into gear.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, all right, now we're going up the hill, baby.
You like jolt back and you're holding onto the bar because it's going too fast.
I'm like, whoa.
Maybe not that fast, but yeah.
Caught me mid-yawn. Wow.
Oh, come on.
I'm just being silly. I don't remember him too much from Brawl in Cell Block 99.
He's
good in it, right? Like, I mean, I feel like he's good in most everything that I've seen him in.
Yeah, he's because I don't want to give that away, but I think he shows up at a certain point. Yeah, and I want to say he's neither here nor there, but it's not like a lacking performance.
No, like so, there's a reason they cast him.
I really, because I used to watch Tin Cup all the time, so that's mostly of where I go, like the finger point.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, it's that guy. I don't know if he had a hiatus. I'm trying to see what other movies that he's been in, but he does a very solid job in this thing.
He's in Django Unchained as one of the slave owners, of the first slave owners that they deal with in the movie, and he's really good in that, I think.
Well, he brings a character to it.
He does. If you need like a smarmy Southern piece of shit in your movie, Don Johnson is who you get, not Don John.
No, don't bring that guy up.
Hey, I gotta watch my pussy videos.
I think he was in Dragged Across Concrete. I think he was the chief, the detective, or not the he was the lieutenant.
He was in that. I don't remember him in the movie.
I want to say he had a small role because like I'm going through his stuff and he had Miami Vice.
Yeah.
Which he plays a lot of one note in that. And then I think it was just kind of like popping up here and there. And then he had a little bit of a resurgence once the 2010s hit. So I this performance that he gives of a crooked cop that knows he's bending the rules, but not like overly done. Like him and Terry Richmond kept me in it the whole time.
Yeah,
because I will tell you, like some of the stuff that was happening when they get into the goals, they're like, it's not bad goals, but there's like, all right, this guy can beat anyone's ass, and we're gonna have him sneaking around at night, and it not to say that that's bad, but like that is, 100 minutes of the film.
So I watched Rambo for the first time, probably like 4 months ago, maybe 5 months ago. And I think I was talking to you a little bit about why I love that movie so much, is because the scrappiness and the conflict and John Rambo getting by the skin of his teeth is present throughout the entire film.
Yes.
Like once it starts getting bad, it stays bad, and it's just him barely being able to escape. The most downtime you get in that movie is when he's like stuck in a cave, and
but didn't he have to like trail the smoke to find the air lock?
And even that's still thrilling.
Oh, big time!
Like ostensibly a scene that should be like, oh, more laid back than the rest of the movie is still engaging and thrilling.
Well, hey, he's a Green Beret. He knows he's eaten things that'll make you puke. And hey, guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna lean into the fact that he's a Green Beret, and we're going to lean into the fact that he knows how to get out of these things because of his title, and we're going to showcase how he does it.
Yeah. To me, this felt like it was trying to be 21st century First Blood in that, okay, we're going to take this guy who has military experience dealing with a town of crooked cops, and we're going to apply a 21st century lens on it with all this technology, all these updated rules, this idea of surveillance. You really can't escape them the way that you could back in the 80s. And it's going to ramp up the stakes, not only because it's tougher to get away with that sort of thing, but also the main character is smart too.
Yeah,
like he's someone who responds to all these things in a way where, like, okay, he clearly knows his homework, he knows his shit, he knows how to deal with this stuff. And there could have been a version of this movie that I think maintained that sort of scrappiness throughout the whole thing.
Agreed.
And to me, that's where my biggest criticism lies, is that whole second act, where there is that sort of like tension building, but it's hard to tell where exactly it's going. And because of that, there's sort of a detachment that I have from it in that, okay, I feel like this maybe could have been a little scrappier, a little bit more skin of his teeth, but instead it's just kind of not shambling, but it's building towards something that ultimately doesn't necessarily feel like it earns it.
They didn't have to have the Summer character in it. That's the problem. And not to say that she was bad, but it created a whole nother storyline that needed to attach all the things happening together. And they could have just focused on racial injustice with the cops. And we're going to take this guy out. And maybe that's why he leaned into that a little bit more, so that they could have it not so Rambo-y.
Right.
But yeah, there's that whole character, and that annoyed me too, because the whole setup is like, that dude's like, hey, I'll be back with your money, and she just pops out of nowhere and is like, hey, I care about you and what's happened, let's be friends. And he was like, yeah, okay, cool.
It almost feels like there's a pressure on the movie for it to be very multifaceted in the way that it unfolds the story. When you have something like Green Room, the movie that he's previously done, where it's a very simple premise and the villains of the film aren't just made out to be, well, they are just made out to be like intolerant racists who are trying to kill them. And it works for that movie. Whereas this film, it's like, okay, there's like these cops that also have like a racial prejudice against him, but there's also this idea of corruption in the town that they don't want discovered. And then they have like all these multifaceted ways of like dealing with people in the town that might rub up against them. And it feels like a little bit too much business. I'm not against some of the stuff being in there. Like, I actually like the Anna Sophia Robb character, and I think her inclusion might be interesting if handled a different way. But I do think that once it gets to the point where they confront the judge in his house, to me, that's the point in the movie where I thought to myself, it's a little too much ketchup on the burger. Like a little bit too much sauce. And it sounds like you feel the same way.
1,000%. I mean, not to say that I was out on it. I mean, I shouldn't say. I was just annoyed that we had so much filler going on besides the main premise of what he's trying to do, that we have to attach this other thing that's going on with her. And it really is like stuff that doesn't even make sense. Not to say it makes sense. It makes sense. And that's why I applauded the writing on it. Because I was like, they do a good job like roping all these things in. But it's at the cost of the entertainment of the film. Yeah. And, at the end of the day, you watch it and it's like, well, okay, maybe that stuff maybe happens, maybe doesn't, but we could have just stayed focused on what was going on with the cousin and him trying to get, create justice for just that, as opposed to everyone that they were doing it, and then the town's corrupt, and now the sheriff and the judge are in on it, and everyone knows what's going on.
Once the cousin dies, some of the stakes of the movie are sort of removed.
Oh yeah, big time.
Because part of it is, oh shit, is he going to get his cousin out in time?
Yeah.
And then at the start of the second act, it's like, no, he doesn't. Sorry.
Just in case you guys thought it was going that way.
Cousin's dead, bro.
And I think what it's trying to do is like, it's that justice piece where it's, private justice of, hey, you got to do what's right now. Mm-hmm. They did something that was unjust, and now you got to tip the scales back to even. Yeah. And I think it was supposed to, and that's where they were like, all right, let's get Anna. Was it Summer? Was that her character name?
Yes.
Let's get Summer in here. She'll help out, and let's start attaching this into a bigger problem. Mm-hmm. Where the cousin was just, a fly on the pond, and really there's a whole scum of shit underneath it. And you're like, all right, well, what are we pulling for here? Do we have to have all of these injustices going on? Can't just like one or two be prevalent to make me care? Like, do I need to know? I go back to the writing. I mean, he follows up with this stuff. It doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of loose ends, but then by the time this thing's supposed to end, all the stakes have been almost essentially eliminated, except for, all right, well, how does he get out on a bum tire? We don't know. Let's just flip everyone.
Yeah.
And that's where it's just like, it's rushed, and then he's smiling, and then he's free, and it's like, oh, okay. Like,
I think also too, part of it is the fact that every single interaction that Aaron Pierre has with the police characters of authority, Don Johnson, whoever else that he's talking to that he's like antagonistic towards, is inherently the most interesting part of the movie, and you just keep wanting scenes like that throughout the entire film. You're curious how it's going to play out, but you also love that sort of like tension and that back and forth dynamic. Whereas like once that's not there as much in the second act, it's like becomes a little dry.
I think they were going for like cat and mouse, but then, hey, we're going to drug her. So now the mouse is kind of like limping.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, this doesn't feel so much.
The cat is toying with the mouse.
Yeah.
And you don't really want to see that anymore.
No, there's no chase. It's kind of like just, it's batting it around. Mm-hmm. And maybe it scurries away just a little bit. And it's like, I still feel like that cat knows where it's going.
Right.
Yeah.
To me, I don't know. I think the fact that Aaron Pierre plays this character with such confidence, and his writing is so confident, and there is enough tension there for me throughout most of the film, and I do like the bookends of it. I think a lot of the flaws that it has, I can't necessarily forgive, but it does sort of, like, the good qualities elevate above the lesser qualities for me.
Yeah, I do not feel that way. But I also don't feel like this is a bad film.
Not at all.
I think that this thing got overstuffed, and I'm blaming Netflix for that. Because we've also seen Hold the Dark, and I feel like Hold the Dark had the same problem.
Hold the Dark just felt like Jeremy Saulnier telling himself, can I make a weird movie? Can I make a movie that
I want to say
maybe feels like Wind River, but just a little bit more surreal?
It was like it's like True Detective and Wind River like mixed in together.
Yeah.
Like there was some supernatural stuff going on around that time. Because I think there's some... I remember seeing it being like, oh shit, here we go. Like, this is True Detective and something else mixed in. And like, we're going to get some grittiness. We're going to get like the frozen tundra. Like, this thing's going to have a very,
Can I make people excited by casting Jeffrey Wright in my movie and then having him be like the most boring thing you've ever seen?
Oh my God. And he's just like walking around confused all the time or talking to himself. I can't, like, I've seen that movie once and I put it out of my brain.
It's like if Jeremy Saulnier had Nicholas Winding Refn write his script.
Jesus Christ. That's a great way of putting that.
I mean, is that not accurate?
No, that's apropos. I mean, that's totally spot on. Like, it was so confusing and mundane. And, this thing, like, it feels like it gets ramped up, but it's never to the point where I'm like, oh man, like rated R. And I don't know if this thing is rated R or not.
I was going to bring that up. This feels like a very much like, it could be PG-13 movie.
Yes.
Except I think they swear a little too much and there's the drug theme in it.
Okay. So, but that doesn't even like come a whole, they just talk about it.
Yeah. Like I feel like you could show like a 14-year-old this movie and they'll be fine.
Yeah,
Like,
I do too.
They won't be scarred for life or anything.
No,
not like Green Room.
No, God, no. Green Room's its own animal.
Very much so. With sharp ass teeth.
Yes. Yeah, rabid.
Yes.
It's Cujo. And it's not a knock on this thing. I think this is very much a Netflix film, and I that to me is not a compliment though.
Gotcha. Where it seems like you would probably rank this only above Hold the Dark.
Yeah.
And then following that, Blue Ruin and then Green Room at the top.
Yeah. Green Room's it's so well paced.
I love Green Room so much.
And this, I think that's kind of my annoyance with this one too, is he had a lot of stuff that he could have did, and that's why I don't fault him on it. Because I really feel like if we could be a fly on the wall in some of those meetings, I think he was like, well, I want to do this, and they're like, okay, that's cute.
Yeah.
But I think his writing comes out through the character, of Terry Richmond or Don Johnson or some of the
that dialogue that's really sharply written.
Yes, there are so many bits and pieces of him in here, and then there's so many bits and pieces of chunks, if you will, of Netflix, and that's why I think the ending's the way, at least to me, why they were just like, we don't know how to do it. It's like, we'll figure out a way. And he goes, okay, well, I'll just flip the whole cops without any reason whatsoever.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything else we need to touch on with this.
No.
Pretty solid, tight discussion. Tight like this film.
I was going to say.
Tight thriller.
Vanilla thriller is what I would call it.
What would you rate this?
Oh, this is a 7.
Okay.
It's a solid 7. I've been toying between 6 and 7, and at the end of the day, I don't know how much I remember of it, but when I was watching it was entertaining. Characters like I really enjoyed the Terry. I really enjoyed Don Johnson. I liked the idea about these guys taking money from people. Like, not that I am applauding them, but I was like, I
loved that they did those actions in the movie.
I really sided with what they were doing.
I believed in them.
Yeah. But the corruption, a lot of times it's corruption. It's like, they're running prostitution and gambling and drugs through the town, and they're taking their cut. It's like, no, they're doing like some dirty ass shit within the confines of the law, and they've gotten the town, and the town needs it though, So it's like, all right, this is like a little bit of a moral dilemma on what they're doing. And, not to say that it's like, oh yeah, I definitely side with them, but it's like, oh, okay, like I see what's going on, and it took this character for this to happen, for this to get brought up. And, with that, it can make it fun, but then he sucks all the fun out of it by just not doing anything.
Damn. Mac hated this movie. You heard it here.
Yeah. No, but me and Jasmine watched it. She liked it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I love her so much, so much, with probably more of my heart than anyone else's heart combined. But if she likes a film and finds it very thrilling and entertaining, I know it's soft. So,
damn, flaccid.
Yeah. So that's where we got done with it. But that's why it's a 7 for me. I feel like it's pretty solid. This is closer to a 6 than it is a 7.5.
So for me, this is an 8 out of 10.
Good God.
Mac just almost choked and died in front of me when I said that score.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, I have my gripes and I have my issues, but I really do think that the character and the tone and the tension that I felt throughout the film really does kind of elevate it for me above just sort of any other typical thriller film. Like, I do think that this does have some juice, and it's got some interesting ideas. The performances, I think, are really solid, especially from the two lead actors. And I really like how it bookends with the tension building and that final sort of action scene that he has with the police officers.
But then it just goes to shit.
I don't disagree with you that the ending points where it goes from and where it gets to feel a little bit rushed, feel a little bit like a flip of a coin and a flip of a switch, but I do like it overall, and It would depend on, when I rewatch Blue Ruin, but I do think that I have this ranked second out of the Jeremy Saulnier movies that I've seen.
Yeah.
So that's where my heart is. That's where my flash drives are hidden.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see your take on this after a rewatch.
Of Blue Ruin or of this movie?
This movie.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean... Well, I mean, I'm not opposed to, like, if I view it in a different lens and, like, maybe your perspective has a little bit of a staying power on me when I rewatch it.
That would be... I'm just saying, like, a thriller of this is not... It didn't feel... It felt somewhat thrilling, like a very mundane thing. But that was to me.
I was kind of perked up at moments and really, like, invested in what was going on.
I was, too. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, there are times in this thing where, and I think Saulnier comes out and shows his chops, and then maybe I'm just being more harsh because I feel like Netflix had more to deal with this, kind of like the other movie we're going to talk about.
So yeah, that's a good segue.
Ooh. Into
the film you recommended.
I did. I did recommend this shit.
Oh wow.
No. I'm saying like, yeah, that's that movie.
Okay, I was gonna say I thought you felt a certain way about this, and then you said that, and then I wasn't sure. But the current war.
I pulled this thing up, and I'm just saying I'm gonna explain how electricity got invented.
Mac is gonna take an hour and 15 minutes to explain the origins of electricity.
I pulled look at this thing. I pulled this up. This is why I'm not reading this. I don't know why I even did that. All right. The Current War, 2017. Directed by Alfonso Gomez Reyon.
Yep.
Written by Michael Mitnick. Starring Benedict Cumberbatch as Thomas Alva Edison. Oh man, I forgot they do this thing and like when they appear. I was trying to find Matthew McFadden as J.P. Morgan.
Yeah.
And he was in. Was he in
Deadpool?
Yes.
Yep.
Wolverine, right?
He was the TVA in Deadpool. And
so I recognized him from that. I'm like, where's he at? And then I started scrolling.
He's also in Pride and Prejudice. I saw that movie.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Our boy Michael Shannon as George Westinghouse.
Best part of the movie.
Nicholas Hoult as Nikolai Tesla. And then we have our boy Spider-Man, Tom Holland as Samuel Insull. And the movie, Kyle started out, kind of gets into, hey, it's going to be about electricity. This is about the patent of electricity. And then it gets into, Thomas Edison peddling this shit for money, and Westinghouse going like he's doing it all wrong. And then it just turns into this, as they describe, a war on current. And, on electricity, and Westinghouse and Edison battling each other on who can take the states and on what they're peddling. Essentially it's just about that the whole time,
Yeah.
So I recommended this because this got brought up a long time ago. I mean, what are we, 7 years ago when I first heard about it? And I actually heard about it when it was in production because the movie podcast that I listened to was very excited about this movie coming out, and then it got delayed and finally came out, and then there was not like go check this out. So it's just been sitting there for a while, and I finally was like, you know what? I'm trying to knock movies off my watch list that we can both talk about because it's rather to do that than watch it by myself and hate it. And so that's why I recommended this thing. So I'm very curious as to how well you enjoy this, because I think when it comes to biopics or things that have happened in history, I am more fascinated than you are with it.
Probably. I mean, what other biopic movies have we talked about on the podcast that come to mind?
I know Oppenheimer pops out right away, and I almost spiraled with that thing and trying to gain more information on it. But I think we both enjoyed that movie, but
yeah,
you were from more of a creative lens and a writing lens, and I was more for kind of the impact it made in the world. And as much as I am fascinated with this and learning about Edison and Westinghouse, and J.P. Morgan being in this thing was kind of crazy to me.
Yeah,
as a financial advisor or investor.
Yeah, this almost feels like, and not even withstanding the inclusion of Benedict Cumberbatch and Tom Holland in this movie, the Avengers of intelligent thinkers of the 1800s. You've got Thomas Edison, George Westinghouse, Nikola Tesla, who I don't know if Nicholas Hoult being third billed in this film is entirely justified, but we can talk about that later.
Okay. Yes, that's where we're at.
J.P. Morgan. And I think Chester A. Arthur is in this movie.
Don't know what he does
for a hot second. But yeah, it does sort of have that kind of Oppenheimer grand scale attempt of, we're going to make this feel very operatic. This is going to be a huge implication of what mankind has achieved. And we're going to try to display that with the filmmaking itself. And
yes,
I have to say, I don't think this movie entirely worked for me.
The cinematography and some of the elements of it, it's a little chaotic.
It is the cinematic fidelity of this movie is not consistent at all.
No,
because there are shots in this film that I kind of had to sit back and go like, wow, that looks really good. I liked the way that they colored this. I liked the way they frame it. I think it was very smart how they just displayed this picture. And then there are other shots where I'm just scratching my head going, what the fuck were they thinking? Like, what is going on here? Some of the Dutch angles, some of the editing choices that are going on in this film. It just feels Harvey Weinstein getting his fat ass sausage fingers in this movie.
Yeah.
It feels all over the place. And we should mention that I think we both watched the theatrical version of this movie that was available online. I don't think either of us watched the director's cuts. So who knows if it does the movie better or worse.
Yes.
But we are talking about the released version of the film officially. So, I don't know. Just a lot of the technical stuff really kept me from enjoying this. And as well as a lot of the kind of hallmarks of a biopic that you would find in other sort of true to life movies and stories. Not entirely comparing it, but something like Bohemian Rhapsody, where it feels like it has to hit notes of oh, you know what this thing is, right? We're going to emphasize this, put a circle around it and point at it and go, hey, this is an iconic moment, or this is an iconic person. This is sort of something that you should pay attention to because it's got a big implication in the world. And it's almost like that moment in Oppenheimer, and this isn't a spoiler really at all, where towards the end, someone makes a comment going oh, who's this senator coming up? Oh, some blowhard from Maine called John F. Kennedy. Jersey, whatever. I don't history is not my strong suit. And you're gonna learn that throughout this whole discussion. But
he might not even be from Jersey.
the way that this film just kind of carries itself with the writing is not something that I was really a big fan of. No, with all the big humdinger monologue speeches that the characters have at each other. It didn't feel like it had the frenetic energy to have that type of dialogue like something like Oppenheimer, and it didn't feel like it had enough groundedness to really get me involved in it that way either.
Yeah, no, I mean, this thing it's all over the place. I mean, a lot of the camera, the way that this thing's shot is supposed to be I think majestical, and you're supposed to really feel like you're seeing electricity for the first time.
Sweeping music.
And it's I always think of the Lumineers, or I don't know, but they for some reason there's that boho style of night sky with the fluorescent, maybe it's fluorescent, the lighting,
yes, it's very treacly, very whimsical kind of,
like fairy tales. And the whole time you're going through this, it's got that feel to it, but then there's also I enjoyed it just from the corrupt angle of what's going on in it, and it plays into how people try to gain an edge. And I really and I'm a little upset that they didn't do it, but Edison could have been played so much more vile in this thing than what Cumberbatch
I
did.
wanted him to go one way or the other.
I did too.
I wanted him
Thank
to
you.
either be like
Thank you.
a misunderstood genius
Yeah.
who can't properly communicate his goals to people, or I want him to be like a vile piece of shit.
Yes.
That like, you
Yes.
know,
Yes.
behind the scenes is a wretched man, but who presents himself as like the savior of humanity.
Yeah, and Westinghouse other way of, hey, either you play the hero of this thing and you're the protagonist and you're the one stepping up doing what's right with
The world thinks
these
you're a
in-
villain, but you're actually a decent guy.
yeah, and fight for it, or go the other way and just being like the money grubbing guy and just being like it's Ford versus Ferrari. Hey, fuck them. Let's prove we can do better.
Mhm.
And then just be an asshole about it the whole time. He played it so like close to the chest of, we're doing what's right. We are not going to take part in any of these actions. I will not speak out against Thomas Alva Edison.
Like, I can't tell if this movie wanted to play it close to the chest and be reserved because it wanted to portray these characters as quote unquote complicated. Like, oh, there's multiple sides to Edison. There's multiple sides to Westinghouse. There's multiple sides to Nikola Tesla, which, there's only one side to Nikola Tesla that we see in this movie, and it is 2 degrees off from what he thinks it should be.
Misunderstood. Misunderstood genius. He is the one that's misunderstood genius.
Or I can't tell if, like you said, they're playing it close to the chest because they're afraid of putting a stamp on these characters in this film, of like trying to say like, oh, we have something to say about Edison. We have something to say about Westinghouse. Whereas like, I don't know, it just feels very safe with like the tone and the way they carry themselves. These characters feel painfully uncomplicated.
Exactly. Like, Edison's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I didn't like him in this movie at all.
He's a giant piece of shit that, like, he never gets his comeuppance. And I know in real life it didn't happen either, but, like, it's a movie.
It's almost like they wanted to portray him like a neurotic, misunderstood genius that's quirky. He's got all these gadgets. He's got this family that, like, they speak binary with each other or whatever the fuck.
Well,
what's it called?
Morse code.
Morse code. Thank you. Not fucking binary. I'm stupid.
Zeros, ones, 1 0 0 0 0 1 0 1.
But they want to portray him as like, okay, this guy's a little silly, but he's also a misunderstood genius. And it's like, no, he's a fucking hypocrite, narcissist asshole.
He just steals other people's ideas and he puts a stamp on it. He gets a patent and he sues them when he wants
and
it.
He acts like a baby.
Yeah.
He acts like a giant baby when someone else like builds upon his idea and then goes up to him and offers to help him with it.
Yep.
Like Nikola Tesla does at the beginning of the movie, and he's like, I'm not paying you to give me ideas. I'm paying you to give me your...
Yeah.
Like, it's like, dude, what the fuck is your problem?
Yeah, but then there's sweeping music when he's sitting next to his wife and she's dying. And it's
then,
like...
What is the jumping point of the conflict of this movie, Matt? Can you tell me? Because it is really hard to kind of justify and get behind.
The jumping point of the conflict? No, I don't think there is one. I think they set it up right at the beginning and then they ride the train.
You know what it is? It's him on the train, and he's on his way to go see Westinghouse at a party that Westinghouse is hosting for Thomas Edison himself. And Thomas Edison goes like, I don't want to go.
Yep.
And Tom Holland's like, wait, what do you mean you don't want to go? I don't fucking feel like it. Let's just keep going. Which is like, okay, big dickish move right there. Like, asshole. Like, maybe consider the fact that like this guy threw a whole party for you. And they even touch upon it in the movie where he's like, I'm afraid of what people think of me or whatever. And his wife goes like, well, I'm afraid of how people feel. Considering other people's feelings of like, hey, maybe it's rude to just not show up at the party that was thrown for you.
I got news for you. It wasn't rude. He did it because. So what I found very humorous, because there's like points in this thing where I really enjoyed the learning aspect of all this stuff of seeing these characters, and it's like, well, I have no idea how it was like back then, but if it's remotely anything like this, Edison's a piece of shit. Westinghouse is really smart, and like he doesn't know how to manipulate things like Edison did. Mm-hmm. But he goes, they're going through, and he goes, tap the brakes, or like something like that about the brakes. Well, you find out later in the film, Westinghouse invented brakes, or the not having to brake at the same time.
Yeah, they talk about it a couple times.
Yeah, he did it as a, hey, fuck you for being, you think that you're top dog. So that's why he said something along the lines of tap the brakes or don't hit the, like don't hit the brakes or like something along the brakes. And they skirted right on by. And I remember it was something, he said, hey, you never hit the brakes. And it's a subtle joke of Edison going, I'm better than you just because you invented this. I own inventions,
Yeah.
And so I thought that was humorous, but yeah, like it was kind of like a really subtle middle finger.
Right.
And that was it. Once again, the word subtle in this movie for it being 100 minutes long is kind of how the whole thing feels with the jabs and what's going on. Nothing ever felt like there are stakes, but everything feels kind of like a poke in the ribs.
Well, it just felt like a series of like disconnected conflicts that somehow they would force back into the main through line of the story. Like when Thomas Edison suggests like, oh, Westinghouse's lights kill people. They will shock you to death if you touch it wrong or whatever. And then his assistant just dies on like some random happenstance accident.
Yep.
And then Thomas Edison is like, see, he's dead, blah, blah, blah. How many people have to die before they realize Westinghouse is a bad man with a mustache? And it's just, I don't know. It doesn't feel earned enough. It doesn't feel like it's a natural progression of things. It really just kind of feels like that staged kind of like biopic feel that a lot of movies like this have.
I did not mind it because I believe that's like kind of how it was going back in the day. Was he would hit the media, he would say all these slanderous things to get his money, make sure that everyone bought his electricity. And that's why I had a problem with how Edison was in this thing, is because if he's doing this, take it to that next level. Let's do something where we really know we don't like him. Like it was like almost like they just put this thing on and said, maybe you know something about Thomas Edison. We'll give you a little bit of what he did, but we're also going to make him just a human. Like we're not going to, he won't be good or bad. You decide. And also Westinghouse, he's really just going to be kind of nonchalant about everything. You decide.
Michael Shannon's gonna go through this movie not bothered at all
ever about
really anything. The most emotion you ever see of him is when his friend dies, and he's just kind of pouty and sad for a minute.
Yeah, like it was, and so it's like I don't know if they were hanging their hat on like you're gonna be so invested, and I was really invested with like how this, like I looked up the guy that died in Buffalo. Like I wanted to make sure that guy was a real person and that was real. It was a real story. There was the electricity. They had to hit the guy twice. It took 8 minutes to kill the dude, and the first time that they flipped the switch on him, he didn't die, so they had to hit it again.
Yeah,
and by that time, he caught on fire. With how much? Yeah, it was like a really disgusting thing.
Fucking Green Mile moment right there.
That's what I thought about, right? And I was like, man, how sick would that have been to have that in there? Like that would have been so like that would have gave this thing some amps.
Well, this thing is so afraid of having any amount of like real tension in it because it's so concerned of like displaying that whimsical nature of the race to light up America with electricity. Yeah. And it feels like it's both trying to be that and also trying to be, in a way, The Prestige. Like, you've seen The Prestige, right? Of course. Where it's like these dueling magicians who, through like different events have this like back and forth
look. But
it's got the same look and the same sort of base idea of we're going to take these two titans and we're going to have them go against each other in this like race to light up America. Whereas it feels like there's such a severe lack of tension between the two of them because they're so disconnected with each other as characters.
Yes, I will say that. I don't want to lose sight on the fact. I mean, like this is showcasing what was going on at the time.
For sure.
So like it's not, The Prestige has got.
Prestige is it's a work of fiction.
Yes,
it's written by Christopher Nolan.
This thing felt like this guy's like, I'm not going to take a side. We're going to let this be like a little political battle within the movie, and we're going to have chess pieces being moved by who can use whatever resource they can to hurt the other. But it's only Edison doing it, and Westinghouse like, I'm going to rest on my morals and principles, and that will showcase. And it's very hard to make a 100-minute movie where that's just what you're going off of is morals and principles. And
it felt like they failed to showcase the characters as being complicated human beings while still maintaining that tension.
Well, and it's focusing more so on the race to light America as opposed to these two guys and what they were willing to do. Like, I never, like, that's what I say. I don't know if Edison was like, he never felt complicated, like a complicated genius. I mean, he wanted us to feel like he was misunderstood. Yeah, but I don't.
Quirky.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't want to say,
but that's the most they ever go with it. Otherwise, he seems pretty level-headed.
He's got a line that he says to is either Westinghouse or Insull. He says, "Listen, everyone puts together a part of making something." He said, "The guy that invents it is the guy that hands over the sheet of paper that says, you know, I invented this." Mm-hmm. And that's what ultimately, at the end of the day, he knew that I will pay everyone pennies on the dollar for them to create my stuff. But at the end, I'm going to be the one that hands it to the patent house and it says Thomas Edison invented this. So, like, you get a little bit of a sense that and that's why, like, misunderstood, complicated, but it also feels like he knows how to move the chess pieces where he wants to go. And that's why I always felt like, complicated or misunderstood, no, but he was always so ahead of the game that he never really had to worry about anything. Mm-hmm. And that's why I took it away from me of him ever being in any peril or anything ever happening. And, you know, I know it's based on history, but, like, for the love of God, attach something else in here.
Yeah.
You know?
This movie desperately needs something in order to keep my attention and to keep it elevated, to keep it, like, specific. The very non-specific nature of this movie is really what kind of irks me.
That's what it sounds like. I mean, you're seeing other things happening that the characters do that play into the characters themselves that should elevate who they are or their character, and it really does nothing for you.
Yeah. I mean, I like a lot of the color grading. I like some of the tone of what it's going for. Mm-hmm. I am kind of a sucker for that. Like, oh, it's like a nightscape of fluorescent lights and it's supposed to feel old-timey. I mean, shit, like the costuming in this movie is like insanely good.
The World's Fair walk up and then they light it up and it's Westinghouse and, you know, and all those people dressed up in old-timey like outfits. Very well done.
Yeah, the production design of this movie is probably the best part of it, I would say. That and maybe some of the performances. I mean, we can get into it, but who do you think was the best performance in this movie? Because I have a very clear answer.
Oh, I don't think I could really give you one.
No?
No.
Despite how wooden his character is and how just sort of like maintained he is throughout the whole film, I really do like Michael Shannon in this movie.
Oh, okay, good. I thought you were going to say Tom Holland. And I was like, okay, no. Thank you, for the love of Christ.
No, he was just playing British Peter Parker in this movie to fucking Cumberbatch's Edison Strange.
You know, in all biopics where they have like the fictitious character that they invent to help the audience keep up with what's going on.
Yeah, Mark Wahlberg in Patriots Day. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm guessing. Sure.
I bring that up because
watched it recently.
I kind of gave away part of the game we're gonna play later.
Oh, got it. That's how I felt about Tom Holland. Of, hey, Edison's gonna ramble off a bunch of shit and understand, you know, he's already 6 moves ahead. Tom Holland will help get us there, or enlighten us into why Edison does what he does.
Right.
Michael Shannon was good. I always liked Michael Shannon. It was reserved Shannon.
It's hard for him not to be good in a movie. Yeah. I feel like
I would have loved to have him like see some rage, you know.
Yeah, get a little bit extra, like that, reach that breaking point. Yeah. Have some like emotional fidelity in this movie I can latch on.
Furrow your eyebrows a little bit and say, God damn it, we're fucking making electricity and we're selling it to everyone.
Right, like put a performance in there that makes me go like, oh shit, like it's getting real. Like things are getting tense and heated.
Yeah, like they just kept lighting up and it'd be like a 1-for-1 and then it just kept doing it and they finally met and it was like, all right, so the World's Fair makes, because I still only know Edison. I didn't even know Westinghouse was involved in electricity.
A lot of what this movie was to me was characters coming into a room where another character was, talking to that character. The character responds in a sassy, backhanded way, and then the character that entered the room says something profound, leaves, and then leaves the character that's in the room just kind of staring,
thinking, like wondering.
I'm in a wondering pose.
Yeah,
I'm in a wondering state right now, and that happens a lot in this movie, Whether or not it's Tom Holland coming into the room, or fucking JP Morgan talking to Edison, or like his wife coming in and talking to him, like whatever else is happening.
Like they could attach stakes with money and just have JP Morgan be a dick.
Someone telling Nikola Tesla like, hey, you're an immigrant, and by the way, I'm selling all of our stock and you are fired by, and then he just like stares at them.
Yeah, that was another weird. I mean, yeah, he got the shaft in all of this.
Yes. I didn't mean to cut you off of your point if you were going someplace.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, JP Morgan could have played a heavier role in this thing with like, you're gonna be cut off with funding unless you do this.
He almost could have felt like a very antagonistic figure in this movie.
Yeah, one that's leading both parties, because I think they were both invested in him, and at no point was I ever like, one of them's gonna be out of money. I just kept watching. I'm like, I feel like JP Morgan's doing something here where he's supposed to maybe hurt Edison or hurt Westinghouse, but like, I still don't get the stakes on like, all right, if you don't do this, you know, I'm pulling out. Or they never felt like one of them was gonna, well, I shouldn't say win, but yeah, no, I'll say fuck it, win. You know, and I don't know, I still don't know. I mean, I feel like Westinghouse won because now I know that he was involved with this more than Edison.
I feel like they both kind of won.
Yeah, because
they're both rich as fuck, and you know, we're both talking about them right now.
I bet you JP Morgan too probably wasn't shit, and the only reason why he's got money in their financial firm is because they got electricity.
I looked it up, and apparently his nose was actually that bulbous because he had like some rosacea problems with it.
Sure, they call it being an alcoholic.
Yes. What is it? Whiskey nose?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, your blood vessels burst because they dry out.
Yeah. So yeah, that was an interesting factoid. Let's talk about Nikola Tesla in this movie.
Sure.
You take him out, and it makes not a lick of difference, right?
No, I think they had him in. I think they had him in here because there's a lot of. Just did like a little bit of not necessarily research, but reading up on the guy. Probably about 5-6 years ago, and he's a very interesting person that really just got fucked, and he had a hand and helping Westinghouse and Edison with all the shit that they've done. And the fact that he died poor as shit is just like a tragic story of, and you could probably throw it into like being an immigrant, but you know, just he got, everyone took advantage of him. And the guy was like, I mean, he had things that I think like patents out there, inventions that he's talked about that people still can't recreate yet.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure he had a great deal of autism. He was also celibate. So, like, he had some weird principles in life. Not to say celibacy's weird, but, you know.
We don't judge here.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, but, and this thing, I think they threw, like, they're like, hey, you know what, let's get his name in here. Maybe we can help out, like, a fund for him, and we'll throw some money in there.
Yeah, and also just kind of feels like they threw his character in here because then they could market this as, like, oh, you know, it's Edison, Tesla, Westinghouse. Yeah. Like, you know those names. Yeah. You know at least two of those names, because I wasn't entirely sure, like, Westinghouse.
I wasn't either.
Before I watched this film.
Yeah.
So having that big of a figure in this movie and then relegating his part to be such, like, a minuscule thing, it feels very weird, especially when he's third billed in the movie and he's on the poster. So
yes,
if they had more scenes of him, kind of what you were talking about, showing his struggle of people trying to understand him and really kind of like wading through it, then his presence in the movie to me would be a lot more justified. And instead it just kind of feels like he's slapped in there.
He is. He truly is. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not even like kind of like he's a pony in this, show pony in this thing.
Yeah.
Hey, we got him in here, you know, and it's everyone. And there's actually on IMDb, couple people did reviews, and they, like, one person let off with like, don't expect a lot of Tesla in this thing if you thought you were going to get it.
Yeah.
And there was a resurgence or something back in that in 10 years ago too, with kind of like his work. And I think that's why they threw him in here, thrust him in here, and this is why this movie even got brought up. There's like 3 iterations of this type of movie, I'm fairly certain, about Edison versus Westinghouse that no one's been able to grab. And I think maybe that Tesla hadn't been involved this 3rd iteration of it. They were like, hey, this has a chance now.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does nothing.
One of the lines in this really kind of bugged me too, where it almost just felt like way too referential to modern times, where one of the characters looks at Tesla and goes, no one in the future will remember the name Tesla.
Yeah.
And is that a fucking reference to the fucking car company, to like Elon Musk?
No,
like what is going on here?
I think what they were saying was you didn't do shit. These two guys invented electricity. They both pawned off of you, and you're not going to be remembered for anything that you've ever done.
Maybe I'm too cynical in that I read that as like, okay, are they referencing Elon Musk here in this movie? But I don't know. Like,
no, I think it's just because no one gave Tesla credit for anything. Like, think of history books. Like when you were in, did they mention that Edison ever had a helping hand?
I mean, like I said, history is not my strong suit when it comes to.
They didn't.
Yeah.
No, if anything, it was like, and then with the help of an immigrant known as Nikola Tesla that came through and helped him out, Edison was able. And then they don't like history doesn't really look back at the people that stepped in to help make a difference and make that change.
Yeah,
and he's very influential with a lot. Like I think. He helped, like he was creating. He helped out with the radio, or some of his work helped out with radio frequency. Like he was that far ahead, you know. And that you know, you're talking 50, 60 years later, they finally figure out how to make the radio. So, no, I think it was just. I think they threw him in here.
So I'm reading way too much into it.
I think
what
so.
You're telling me.
Because I also think that Elon Musk is a fuck for hey, we're gonna make Teslas, or maybe he's doing it because that guy helped out so much. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean. I'm not going to bring up Elon Musk again ever on this podcast.
You say that.
Yeah, I say that. I'm not going to make a promise because I can't hold myself to it. Yeah, I mean, I do really enjoy. I'm gonna say something positive about this movie because I feel like I've been dogpiling on it. I do really like the leap of. Oh, Westinghouse's electricity kills people, and he demonstrates this by shocking the horse to death with the electricity that's labeled Westinghouse.
Yeah.
And then someone comes up to him and goes like, we could use this to lethally execute patients fucking prisoners in prison or whatever the fuck. I am butchering the fuck out of this line.
Yeah, no, you're good, man.
But that's essentially what he says, right? He comes up to him excitedly, and he's got the best mustache in the world, and he goes "We could use this to kill prisoners in a fucking ethical way or whatever." Are you talking about that actor?
He's in Shanghai Nights.
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
Yeah, Mac furrowed his brow when I said that.
No, he was an environmentalist that worked in prisons and wanted to help out with some of the regulation and reform in the prison community. Mm-hmm. And he saw that and he said, listen, if you can kill that horse, you can help kill a person humanely as opposed to what we do now.
Yeah, he kept using the word humanely as a way to like kind of get at Thomas Edison.
Well, that was part of it was part of his job. The guy it was prison reform, like when they did the t with his name on there, it was something about environmentalists or something to go on with prison reform. So he wasn't like hey, how do I save money by killing these people? He was like, we want to make sure we do it right, and that was part of his job title.
Yeah. Who's got the best facial hair game in this movie? Is it Michael Shannon as Westinghouse?
Probably Tom Holland.
I don't know. I can't agree. Like,
Did he have a mustache? I don't remember.
He had a mustache towards the end, and it looks so bad.
No, I was giving you shit because I thought he was clean shaven the whole time.
I mean, that mustache, how tiny it was, he might as well have been. I think either Westinghouse or that environmentalist guy. He had a pretty good.
He did. I liked Westinghouse. I really liked Michael Shannon's get up in this thing.
Yeah, with like the sideburns and like the brown dark clothing and everything. Yes. He kind of looked like like a dictator almost, like a Soviet dictator.
The guy in Monopoly. He looked like the guy in Monopoly.
Yeah, like a dirtier version of him.
Yeah. Which is great because they paint him out to be so pure in the sing.
Right.
And maybe that's why I was annoyed too. I'm just watching this. Hey, that's Monopoly guy. Hey, he's supposed to be a greedy asshole. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, hey, we only do things right around here.
Yeah. Going through the plot, I mean, shit, what else is there really about this movie that we want to discuss?
I don't know about discussion. I really liked. I found it fascinating that. All right, here we are now in modern times. Electricity, we have it everywhere. You know, there's a bill we pay. It's $30, and at the time, you're talking about trying to go town to town. They're figuring out what current flows best. People are acting. If you went and sold water and you sold Yates water, right? And at the time you were rivaling Parker water and you said Yates water has better whatever than the Parker water. People are like, we're getting the Yates water. I just find it so humorous that hey, just go to a fucking lake and drink that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like the name doesn't change shit. It's still just electricity. Like whether it's, alternating currents or direct current, like it's still, and they were like, the Westinghouse electricity does it so much better. And it's like, it's just fucking electricity. You get it. You turn on a light, there it is.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very humorous to me that, and they're going through and they're trying to figure out, well, how do we label this electricity? How do we get people to know the difference? And how are we selling? And at the time, everything's candlelit, so if you go to a town and your town got electricity, like, boy, howdy,
count your lucky stars.
You know what I'm saying? It's just crazy that you can do the compare and contrast from where we're at now versus where they were at then. And it's just funny to think about, like, had Edison's media, the newspaper articles leaking out deterred Westinghouse at all, like into the future, like how big of a butterfly effect would that have had now? So it's really, I enjoyed of the time and being kind of a part or privy to see, like, oh yeah, like I gotta put it in the perspective of this is 1810 and I am a person that has a candle. And now all of a sudden, like I see a power line going up, like, holy shit, like my world's changing. And it's so hard to, I think that's kind of like not necessarily problem with this, but I think the director was leaning more into there would be more fascination with that element. But it's very hard to detach yourself when you're watching it on a TV, on a streaming service with the lights on, and your porch light on. Yeah. And then you got a cell phone in your hand. Right. It's very hard. So I got a kick out of that. And then watching the lights on the American board going up and, hey, we just got Pittsburgh. Yeah. And then being like, well, shit, a town 100 miles away has no idea what that would look like. And they're sitting there trying to take a hot bath, heating fucking lamp oil.
Yeah, the movie does try its best to like emphasize the weight of like, oh, this is a big deal and we're going to present it in a way that's a big deal. We're going to show these cityscapes lighting up and we're going to show these light bulbs being installed and like all these different light fixtures that are being like really kind of like focused on by the camera, by the the general aesthetic of it. Yeah. And that's really going to be like what pulls people in. And honestly, to me, that is the best part of the movie is just like the display of it and like the grandiosity and the wonder of electricity and lighting up the sky with this newfound element. Whereas like the rest of the film doesn't quite live up to that for me.
No, it doesn't. And that's where I get into with the characters and some of the writing and some of the, because like there's peaks and valleys with every story, and there's supposed to, you have to have some sort of rising action going on, and every storyline that they were trying to go through to get some rising action going, it just felt so mundane. But it kept me interested and involved because I was like, all right, at this time, we don't have the death penalty and they're still hanging and shooting people. Okay, like how revolutionary is this? And I wish they would have slapped Edison on the face a lot more for him being like, yeah, go ahead, put it in Buffalo, just make sure you do this. And that's where I guess that would be one of the more climactic points of the movie would be them discovering the papers. And it just falls so flat in terms of any sort of tension or mistakes, because then it's like, well, I still own 50% of America with electricity. Like he never loses anything. So it's like, oh, okay, so what do the papers prove then? Right. Just that he's a dick? Yeah. It's like, okay, well, what couldn't he have leaned into that more then? Like,
you're casting Benedict Cumberbatch, who can play a giant dick in a movie.
Yeah. Power of the dog.
Utilize that energy. Yes. In the performance. Utilize Power of the Dog energy for Benny Boy to be like full asshole mode. excuse me.
Screaming at Tesla, screaming at people. Let's have him like throwing papers down, you know, like, you don't fucking know what I go through, you know, like shit like that.
Let's talk about the production of this.
Okay.
Since, you know, we were talking about it before we recorded.
Yeah, we have to give people the
lowdown. So this movie was supposed to come out, I think, around November 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And Weinstein's name was attached to this. We alluded to it earlier, but he was an executive producer, and he was very kind of infamously known to get his greasy little sausage fingers, his pervy fingers, into whatever project he was producing, to the point where he had actually edited, I don't know how much of this film he edited, but he edited enough of it to where when all of the Me Too stuff was happening and Harvey Weinstein was really being, you know, tried as a predator.
He had a nickname. It was like Harvey Scissorhands or Weinstein Scissorhands.
That is very interesting. But essentially, he had his fingers all over this movie.
Yeah.
And because of that, when all the shit came out with him being a piece of shit human being, this movie kind of suffered for that and delayed the release quite a bit because
2 years almost, right?
Yeah, because there was a lot of like legality over like, okay, we don't want Weinstein's name on this anymore, obviously. And then I think you told me the Weinstein company ended up selling it off to another distributor. Yeah,
Lone Key. It was something like Lone Key, Lone Gate, Gate Loan.
Lantern Entertainment.
Lantern, which I thought was ironic.
And then 101 Studios in the United States.
Yeah.
So that allowed it to be released finally after a while. And then I think also I read too that Scorsese's contract had final say in the movie. Which
makes you wonder how much Weinstein could have edited this thing. If Scorsese's like behind it.
Right.
You know.
Which, you know, it gave the film time to do reshoots.
Yes.
So then the reshoots, along with the different distributor, allowed the film to finally be released October 25th, 2019.
Yes.
So 2 years after it was supposed to be released.
Yeah.
Which is quite a long time. And this movie, as a result of that, I don't know if it's as a result of that, but, you know, just the timing of everything, it bombed at the box office.
Yeah.
Had a $30 million budget. Made $12.2 million. So, not good. Especially for a cast this stacked when you've got Doctor Strange and Spider-Man in the same movie. Supposed to be big names, but apparently no one wanted to see a movie about electricity being fought over.
Well, you know, and because I'm only going off of like what I was listening to at the movie podcast when this was, and it got me excited about it, and I was a little bit more into like some independent stuff, and Weinstein Productions attached to it. I think there was, you know, in 2017, it'd be hard to say. Like, I'd be interested to see if they were trying to capitalize on a certain movement going on. You know, I don't know if the Teslas maybe came out and they're like, hey, we could do that, or if they saw something fail before this and say we can capitalize on that. But I feel like the 2-year delay really hurt this thing with whatever momentum it had going on, almost like the bike riders.
So I read that Michael Mitnick basically wrote the script in 2008.
Oh.
So it was written a long time ago. And I feel like it's sort of around that time of like, oh yeah, we're going to have like these dueling titans as like the conflict of the movie.
Yes.
And it sort of feels appropriate for that time range.
Yes.
Which it does kind of make sense that this movie has that sort of like dated biopic aspect of like, we're going to include all these hallmarks of a biopic film.
Yes.
That you're used to seeing in like early 2000s movies.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. We're going to hit certain points, certain historical events. We're going to have really limited conflict and tension going on. And yeah.
Unless there's anything else we want to discuss with this, I think we can kind of wrap this one up.
Yeah, this is a good talk.
Yeah. I guess I'm going first with my rating.
Yep.
So this is a 5 out of 10.
Oh, okay.
For me. Really did not find myself attached to what was going on, just because I felt like the movie was very hand-wringy over what it wanted to depict, how it wanted to depict it. Couldn't tell if it wanted the characters to be complicated but was failing at portraying them in a three-dimensional way, or if it wanted to just play it safe in order to hopefully draw people into seeing the movie and having the widest appeal it could possibly get. This movie, despite the premise and despite an interesting setup, feels very void of any sort of real tension or stakes, and it really could have done with that, especially when you're dealing with characters that are as big as Edison, as Westinghouse, as fucking Nikola Tesla, who gets very sidelined in this film. And on top of that, a lot of the technical aspects just do not mesh with me. The cinematography is really great at points, and then also really stunningly baffling at other points. And the editing of this movie, I don't know how much we have to blame for good old sausage fingers Weinstein for this, but it just feels kind of like a jumbled, rearranged mess.
Yeah.
So to me, this is a 5 out of 10 movie.
Not bad. Not bad. I have this as a 6 out of 10.
Okay.
I echo a lot of the same sentiment. The cinematography felt like they were like, well, the story, it's just crazy sometimes, because you can tell sometimes when directors get going, they're like, or the cinematographers, like, the story's not interesting enough. We need to switch up camera angles to keep people involved. Mm-hmm. And that felt very prevalent in this thing. Editing, I don't know if I would say it was a message. Just there's no pacing of this thing. It feels very bogged down.
Yes.
As like it's a slow draw to where we're gonna finally go. And then the characters, really no one, I was like, I think at the end of the day, Edison, not to say he was the best, but I learned the most about him and what he was as a person. And and I not necessarily applaud it, but it's fun to watch it. This thing is I feel like this is a Wikipedia 12-page scroll down that got brought to light.
Light.
Which I don't necessarily knock, but I did have a fun time thinking about this, and there's a lot of funny things to me to actually think about. And when I put myself in that spacing of it, just kind of sidestepping characters and letting me be myself in this 1810 world of what's going on, it was fun, and I learned quite a bit. I mean, like the death penalty guy, Harry Kemmler. I want to say Henry Kemmler. That was interesting. So, but outside of that, nothing's really going to stick with me. Probably outside of just a lot of the core concepts that we witnessed.
Yeah.
Night Call with Sam Parker.
Our night call is a ship on the ocean. We've been sailing for too long. Yo, what up, Neon Mafia? Represent. I don't even know what movie you guys are doing. I'm just on my walk. Baby asleep. Elmer the dog. And show this to Mankey. I think you'd appreciate this. And I have some more to say on Twisters and Twister. I don't know. One of the songs from Twister came on, or like a song that should have been in Twister. Anyways, I was like, it's not really fair of me to critique the remake without, or not the remake. It felt like a remake. Like, why didn't they just name him Bill, name her Helen Hunt, have a guy named Dusty? It was all the same players, but they're all one-dimensional characters. Like, I was thinking about the OG one, and, they show you Bill from the get-go, and, like, he's your hero, and you think he can do no wrong. And throughout the movie, he kind of does some, like, not, like, scummy, but, like, he's selfish, I think is the best way to describe it. And why shouldn't he be? He was a part of this life. He's coming back to it only to finalize his divorce papers, realize his rival's in the mix, needs to step up his game. He can do it for one day because that's probably all he can handle emotionally, physically, and otherwise. And, Helen Hunt, clearly, didn't want to get the divorce, maybe did it out of a bad temper. But just like very subtle things that add these different dimensions to the characters. The new one, it's like the only thing is like Glenn Powell in that town, and he's like, you realize who you working for? And she's like, coming from the guy selling t-shirts, and he's like, you don't even know me. And it's like the old, oh, okay. So these yokels are actually really good people at heart. Like, why couldn't they be from the get-go that they want to make money off their YouTube channel and chase tornadoes and also help people with safety? That doesn't make them very vanilla multi-dimensional characters. I don't know. I was thinking of like Dusty as this kind of like this burnout kind of character. And, you know, you think that he's not up on it. And he has like just a really subtle moment where he like comes up to Joe, Helen Hunt's character, and he's like, hey, Joe, looks like there's another one coming. You know, do you want to stay here in Waukita or do you want to get it? And he looks like he's the bearer of bad news. Like, yeah, the tornado of the century is 20 miles away down the road. Or do you want to be with your aunt who probably raised you after your dad was sucked into a tornado? And he delivers that line not like for laughs, but very much of it pained him to do so. And so that's where like the original is such a step up. And it took such a shellacking when it came out. But man, you know, it's pretty darn good. And the characters are the reason why. And then also, I just wanted to make sure that we're clear, like both movies with the action scene. Like, I don't think any movie has ever made driving a truck around. Oh, time to go home. Driving a truck around in like Oklahoma any cooler or more intense. The cinematography for both those films in the tornado sections is like top notch. And again, it wouldn't have taken much for the new one to have become an instant classic. Everything is there. The more I think about this film, the more I'm like, they dropped the ball. And guess what? I just saw it advertised for being on HBO Max here. So that means I spent $25 to watch this with my wife. And here's a good gauge. I put it on with her. It was date night. Rental $20. She's like, let's just buy it. You'll like it. And I go, yeah, I did enjoy this in theaters. The theater experience amped it up like 2 or 3 stars. Sitting on my couch, I was getting bored. I'm like, and just like Mackie said, like they went back to that house and it was like record scratch. I might have gotten up to take a shower. Like, you're just sitting there and you're like, oh my gosh. Like you don't want to be annoyed by your characters whining. You know, she's like, you know, I haven't found the solution to stop tornadoes. And it's like, yeah, that's perfectly fine. You're 27. You'll get there. Like, have some patience. Apparently you haven't been home in 5 years, so that doesn't really help your progress on this project. Kind of selfish. If you thought you were right there. And then, of course, Glenn Powell in that scene, he's like, they do it and it doesn't work. And they're like brainstorming. She's like, I checked all the figures. And he's like, what if the models are broke? It's like, I am so torn on this movie because it's like, absolutely love it. But also like, they missed every benchmark and landmark to the original. Why even call it Twisters? Like, maybe because there's no other name. Like, they had a tornado movie and they're like, well, we can't, you know, what are we going to call it? They're just like, well, we can shoehorn some dialogue about Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz and stuff. And they're like, ooh, good. Yeah, because we haven't thought of a name for these cars. We were just going to go with car 1, car 2, car 3. Yeah. That's really good. And then then they're like, yeah, we can add this one line. And let's top it off by hiring Bill Paxton's son as the most insufferable person in this whole movie. Like, even the guy, the nerdy big dude for the rich team, who's the new Superman, like, he even had charisma and, like, some likability. Like, I wasn't rooting for him to... I mean, I was rooting for him to go. But, like, every time he came on screen, I'm like, this guy's pretty good. And they give Bill Paxton's kid... the only, the only person that's really tied from the original in there. But it's also funny too, because it's like, all right, I mean, this isn't funny, but it's like they were screwed because Helen Hunt was like trying to get this produced a couple of years ago, and Bill Paxton was trying to get this produced, a sequel like in the early 2000s, and neither one got off the ground. So there's no way that could have been pleasant exits with them in the studio that owned the property, Warner Bros. And so they're like, yes, we're not using these two. And they're like, well, let's use Bill Paxton's kid. They're like, okay. Hey, does anybody else have a kid that's famous? Just Philip Seymour Hoffman, who was nominated for an Oscar at like 16. Yeah, we don't have a fit for him. This is a movie predominantly young people. Yeah, he has no feel here. We can't do that. And so you're missing the top 3 from the movie. It's like, I mean, and you killed, oh, yeah, very Roma. You killed off Cary Elwes and the other guy. So who are you going with? But they could have done anything. Like Alan Rickman plays the Maps guy, and he became kind of big on Succession, and I think won an Emmy, but definitely came back, like comeback role. Why not get him as the dad? And you could have had a whole scene where he's talking about the maps. I mean, as boring as that sounds, that's way more interesting than like, hey, what's this model over here? And she's like, oh, it's just a formula that can wipe away tornadoes forever. You mind showing me? Like, yeah, I just think from a writing standpoint, Roma, come on. It's like one of the worst, between the writing and directing, one of the worst executions of an existing property I've ever seen. I also said this was going to be the best movie of not only the summer, but possibly century or decade or something. Man, they screwed me. This is like, dude, last year, Oppenheimer, I'm not going to get started on that. Just saying that movie title out of my voice is igniting like at least 10 arguments, ongoing conversations, and otherwise. But that one, I went to the theaters on my birthday. It was like a big deal. And that one blew. And guess what? It was also boring talking. Like, nobody knows how to write dialogue anymore outside of like good television. Because the dialogue isn't leading to anything. It's catching you up on stuff that you probably already know. And the foreshadowing of mystery is always like a letdown. The suspense isn't there because everything is directed towards these big budget action sequences. I didn't see Wolverine, Deadpool, Part 4, but I imagine it was just inside joke after inside joke after inside joke without any pace or tempo, no rhythm. Oh. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys. Yeah, it's 2 straight weeks of me talking about Twisters or Twister. Shout out Bill Paxton. He is the most likable guy in possibly the history of cinema. He's my favorite actor. He was in just an absolute classic action film called Twister. And that movie deserves far more respect than it's given. With elite performances, Oscar-winning actors involved, elite storytelling, character development, and they make the tornado vicious. My only knock on that film is there's too much of Bill Paxton running around going, come on, let's go! Hurry! Come on, let's go! Faster, hurry, now! Like, they that's almost distracting with how much is in there. Next time you're watching it, really listen for it. Anyways, this is Sam Parker signing off. Kyle, summer's almost coming to an end. Keep the sunscreen going, Mackie. You know what to do. Bye.
I agree. Speaking of agree, I agree that you and I should play this game that I want to try out.
Want to play a game?
So because we talked about Rebel Ridge, and because
Yes.
we talked about a movie that has a lot to do with depictions of police officers in movies, I figured we could try this game out and see how it goes. You'll have to let me know how you feel at the end of it, if it works or not. But we're going to play this game called Cop Till You Drop. And I wanted to call this Copying a Feel, but I crossed it out because I thought it was pretty crass.
And
I came
Harvey
up with
Weinstein?
a better title. So Cop Till You Drop it is.
There we go.
So I have images on my phone of various police officer characters in movies.
Okay.
And I'm going to show you the picture.
Okay.
And I want you to tell me what movie it's from.
Okay.
And you'll get a point. And you'll get a bonus point if you can tell me the character's name.
Okay.
So I have 12 images.
Okay.
This is the first one. And for those listening on audio only, I am going to show pictures on the video version on YouTube. So if you want to see these images yourself, you can check them out there. Gotta play the game.
Gotta play the game.
And we're going to just try this out. If it totally doesn't work, then we'll never do this again.
Okay.
But I figured we'd give it a shot.
So I get a point if I get the movie right, 2 if I get the character or the actor and movie.
So movie title and then character.
Oh, character.
Yes.
Ooh.
Not actor.
Okay.
So, because I figured with actor it'd be too easy. Because there's a lot of like iconic cops being played by people you would definitely know.
Yeah.
So
the character name's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
Okay.
This first one should be easy enough.
All right.
So here's the first image.
Oh, Terminator 2. That is the T-1000.
Correct. Terminator 2 T-1000 famously dresses as a police officer in order to fool the characters in the film and pursue John Connor.
Yes.
So played by do you remember the actor's name? I'm having trouble remembering it. It's like Patrick something, right?
He's always a swarmy villain.
Yeah, he's good at playing like smarmy villains or like confident secret agents of some kind.
I don't know about secret agents.
Maybe not secret agents, but like cops, I guess, or like, detectives maybe.
Cunning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of looks like a snake man.
Yeah.
Here is the second photo. Now this one's kind of a trick.
I want to say that's RoboCop.
That is RoboCop.
And I got to get that guy's name?
You got to get this guy's name. And you can't say just RoboCop.
Why not? He is a RoboCop.
He's not in this picture.
The X981.
No.
Okay.
Alex Murphy.
Oh, of
is
course.
who I was looking for. This is him before he becomes RoboCop. And that's not a spoiler because he becomes RoboCop.
Right.
I saw that movie recently for the first time. Fucking loved it.
Yeah, it's a fun 80s movie, and within the first 20 minutes a thing goes wrong, and it's very startling.
Yeah. Thing fucks all day and night. Here is image number 3.
Oh, that is super bad.
Super bad. I'd be very surprised if you could tell me the characters' names. They're very standard.
Smith and Johnson.
No. So their character names are Officer Michaels and Officer Slater. Not iconic for their names, but if someone tells you, hey, the cops from Superbad, you can easily picture them in your mind. Of
course. McLovin's trio.
Yeah. Good job of getting the movie, though. Here is image number 4, and this one is kind of a cheat because there's no way you don't get both points at the same time.
Maybe. Oh, Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Yep, Paul Blart Mall Cop. The name of the character is in the title. So that one was kind of a freebie.
Yeah.
But I figured I'd throw him in because how could you not include Paul Blart?
I guess.
In famous cops and movies.
Do deputies count?
I think so. I mean, I have all sorts of different officers in this lineup here, which you'll see as we keep going.
Yep.
But here is image number 5.
Oh, God. Patriots Day.
Yep. I mentioned it earlier.
Oh, God. I had this movie. The crazy thing is, one of the times I was dropping Preston off, this was on like when we got to the hotel at like 1 a.m., before I passed out. And I saw like 20 minutes of this thing or 15. I was like, I think I could watch this. I never caught the guy's name.
It's Tommy Saunders. Officer Tommy Saunders.
Got it.
He is...
Well, no, I don't get a point on that. You
don't. That's right. I accidentally gave you a point, and then you were like, no, Kyle.
Yeah.
Let's play this game fair.
Yeah.
I think I was distracted because I was going to bring up the fact that he is sort of an amalgamation of different characters, air quotes, in real life when this event happened.
Yeah.
The Boston bombings. Here's image number 6.
Oh, Fargo.
Yep. I have a feeling you're going to get most, if not all, of the movie
titles. I will probably
titles.
get all the movies. The characters are the ones that I'm trying to get, and it's God.
It's so close. It's right there. You can feel the edge of the name on your brain.
I can't. God damn it.
You got 10 seconds.
No, I'm gonna give it. If I don't get it, it will never come to me. There's a logjam of shit. Lois.
No, it is a name like that. It is Marge Gunderson.
Sam's gonna be disappointed.
Gunderson, played by Frances McDormand.
Yes.
Great movie, Fargo.
Fargo is.
Image number 7.
Oh, it's Gyllenhaal in Prisoners.
Yep.
And he plays Detective
He's got a very unique name.
Smorgasbord.
No. I'll give you one more hint.
Okay.
He shares a name with a character from the MCU.
Stark.
No. Detective Loki.
Oh, that's right.
Yep. His name is Detective Loki in the film. Fucking love Prisoners.
Yes.
But I just love Denis Villeneuve in general. All right. Image number 8.
Oh, Green Mile. And the Green Mile?
No.
Or not the sorry, Shawshank.
I'm going to give you half a point for getting
I knew what I mean,
Shawshank
come
on the
on.
second
If I go
one.
like Green Mile and then I go no and I go, wait, that's not it?
All right, I'll give you a full point.
We did the same episode. It was the same fucking episode we did.
Same episode, same setting, similar setting.
Yeah, what's going to
Prison
stop me
guards.
from throwing you off this fucking roof right now? Blah, 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 blah.
Can you tell me his name?
No, it's Officer Petty.
Portrayed by Clancy Brown. His name is Byron T. Hadley. So, the more prominent guard character in Shawshank Redemption. Image number 9.
Oh, it's Brian Dennehy and Rambo playing Sheriff fucking McCormick.
Nope. I think his name is Will Teasel.
That's such a fucking lame name.
It is a very funny name. And it's a lame name, I think, given purposefully to a character that you're supposed to hate.
Yeah.
All right. Image number 10. This one might be a little tricky. The image quality isn't the best.
Oh, that's I want to say Magnolia.
Correct. That is Magnolia.
No.
The character name is going to be really tough.
Okay.
He's not really known for his, character.
No, he's not. He's played Officer Piglet.
His name is Jim.
Jim.
I think his name is just Jim. I think he has a last name, but I don't remember what it is.
Got it.
Very non-special name.
Yes.
This one, I think you might get the name.
Okay.
So, I'll show you this picture. Image number 11. You got this. You got this.
No.
Come on.
I don't even know the movie.
You don't know the movie?
Hold on. What is that, a motel? That looks like a freaking license plate.
He is standing next to the back of a fire truck.
Nope. Don't know. Don't know either.
Damn. John Wick. Officer Jimmy. You working again?
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, first movie you didn't get.
God.
That's all right.
A fucking sneaky pull.
That is a sneaky pull. So, this is the 12th and the last image in this game.
Oh, The Departed.
The Departed. He's got
I'm the guy who fucking does his job. Who the fuck are you?
Yeah. Mark Wahlberg in The Departed. His character name is one word, and it's a very uncommon, kind of funny name.
Wenzel.
No. I feel like you're leaning towards like W names a lot of these guesses.
That's not all. It's Smorgasbord, Piglet, McCormick, Lewis.
Dignam is his name. He did. It's funny because Letterboxd didn't even say like Officer Dignam, Detective Dignam, or anything. It just said Dignam. So
that's nice.
Yeah,
that's funny.
So cool. Looks like you got most of the movie titles except for John Wick. So you've got 11 points there,
Cheeky.
and then you've got 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 of the character names.
Yes.
So you get 15 points. Congratulations.
15 out of 24.
Ding, 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 ding. Not too bad.
Not too bad.
The character names were going to be hard.
Dude.
So the fact that you got most of the movie titles was impressive in itself. So congratulations.
Thank you.
That was Cop Till You Drop, a kind of new impromptu game that we'll probably only do one time, but maybe we'll have another iteration of it.
Yes.
Given the theme of the episode and the movie we're talking about. Let us know if you guys like this game or if it's a piece of shit that we should stop doing. How did you feel about it?
I like it.
You like it?
I want something more challenging on the movie side. Characters, I will never. I'm going to have such a hard time with character names.
I'll keep that in mind.
There's like, between football, watching movies all the time, and meeting people all the time, names are so.
I mean, admittedly, I probably wouldn't have known like over half of them if I didn't look them up myself.
Yeah, the T1000 was a poll.
T1000, I knew you were going to get because it's not really a name. It's just what it is.
Yeah, but that's true. But also with the numbers.
Yeah, you got it. The numbers could be a little confusing there. Well, cool. Thank you guys for participating in this game.
Yeah.
We've got one more bit of business.
Yes, we do.
Before we wrap up, I get to make a recommendation.
Ooh.
So, are we locked in for Megalopolis as being our theater watch?
I thought there was something else coming out that you would have wanted to watch over that.
The only thing that I think would be very interesting to talk about, and then maybe we can like save Megalopolis for later, is The Substance. If you wanted to check that out.
When's the Joker
Folie à Deux? I don't think that comes out until like early October.
October 4th.
Joker Folie à Deux. So that comes out October 4th. When does that fall on the calendar for us? So if this episode comes out the 29th, and then Joker comes out that following Friday.
So we'd record and then the Friday after we record? Or is it the Friday before we record?
So the Friday before we record next, I'm pretty sure. Let me just double check. So
let's see.
We're recording today the 24th.
That would be a tight squeeze, wouldn't it?
It might be a little bit of a tight squeeze. We could do it for maybe the episode after. I don't imagine it wouldn't be in theaters very long.
You don't think that this one's going to be in theaters that long?
No, I'm saying that it will be in theaters for that long.
Oh, yeah, I think so. It's the way they're marketing this thing.
Right, exactly. Very aggressive.
Megalopolis. Fuck.
So, well, we could do that. We could do The Substance. I did see The Substance, and that is a movie we could talk about.
What's The Substance about?
It's Demi Moore, Margaret Qualley.
Oh, yes.
Body horror.
Oh, man, who plays the creepy doctor in that? Is it Quaid?
Dennis Quaid is in the movie. He's not a doctor, but that's all I'm going to say.
Interesting.
So, I'll let you have the pick.
I know, it's so garbage. I don't want to see Megalopolis at all, but I think
we kind of have to talk about it, though.
Did we really?
Yes, we do, eventually.
Right, let's do Megalopolis.
Oh. And Mac, you're really going to love me for this next recommendation.
Okay.
Because we have referenced it a lot on this podcast.
Really?
You specifically have referenced it a lot on this podcast.
Tonight or in general?
In general.
Okay.
Like throughout the run of all of our episodes.
Yes.
And you bring it up enough, and we talk about this filmmaker enough. I haven't seen any of his movies, but I know how you feel about it, and I know how you're going to feel when I say the title of this movie.
I'm so nervous right now.
Because anytime you've brought it up, it's been with a mild level of disdain at best.
Oh, that's not good.
But I think I kind of have to pull the trigger on it, especially if we're going to pair it with Megalopolis. I want to talk about The Tree of Life.
God damn it.
Terrence Malick's Tree of Life.
Why are you doing this? Fuck. Come on.
Visceral hatred from McLean Parker.
This is 6 hours of my life gone.
I want to talk. We reference this movie so much. You specifically bring up the Tree of Life a lot. I feel like we gotta rip the bandage off. We gotta do it because
why'd you pick it with this other one? Aren't they both 3 hours of pure shit?
The Tree of Life is an hour 39.
No,
at least according to
is that what it
fucking
says?
Letterboxd, yeah.
There's no way. That movie felt like, well, maybe because it felt like it was fucking 4 hours. There's no fucking way that movie's under.
And then Megalopolis is 218.
What'd you say Tree of Life was? How long? Hour 124?
139 minutes. So that's 2 hours and 19 minutes, right?
139?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no fuck. That movie felt like, oh, God damn it.
Now, I will throw this out there. If this really pains you, if this is something you absolutely do not want to do.
Okay. Technical specs. Runtime 219, 3839. I watched the 3 hour and 8 minute version of this fucking travesty.
There's a 3 hour and 8 minute version of the Tree of Life.
Yeah, that's the one I watched. So that's why I'm telling you it was over 3 hours, because I watched images for 3 hours.
How about I propose this? Okay, if you're really against the idea of
we'll do it.
This movie,
no, we're doing it. This is.
You're sure?
I am positive. Maybe I'll revisit it and be like, wow, this is not a steaming pile of shit.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool.
I've only seen it once, and it's got that much of a burn into my skull about how much I did not like it.
I wish you guys could see the way Mac is looking at me right now, because it is. I don't even think I've ever felt this level of animosity towards myself.
We picked it with this other fucking movie that's coming out that is gonna be trash.
You don't know that. You could love it. It could be the best movie you've seen all year.
How long is this other one?
It's 218.
Oh, that's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
Okay, 218. I thought they were both 3 hours.
It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine.
We're gonna be ripping on movies for 2 straight hours.
Listen, if you want to, and I'm totally not against this idea here at all. I'm gonna throw it out here right now.
Okay.
The Substance, I don't think is going to be in theaters for that long. And that is a movie that I think would guarantee a very good discussion between you and I. Mostly
really?
Because, I mean, I'm not going to show my hand about the movie, but I would be excited to talk about it with you specifically. I would be excited to see how you react to it, and I would be excited to hear what you have to say about it. So we could just do The Substance paired with either Tree of Life or another movie altogether.
No, let's do Tree of Life. Tree of Life only because I've shown my hand and how much I don't like it, and
sure,
I would like to feel like I need to revisit that one and see if I piss on the grave or if I gently pat it with a flower.
For sure. And
let's do we could do that. We have to talk about Megalopolis at some point in our life.
At some point, and I'm saying, like, they kind of pair well, right? Like two seemingly bloated, kind of life-spanning projects that are very much the voice of their director.
Let's do that. The Substance will be streaming within the next couple months.
Okay.
I gotta imagine it will be if it's was it independent film?
Yeah. It was a film picked up by Mubi because it was originally going to go straight to streaming, I believe.
Oh,
and then Mubi distributed it in theaters to try and get some buzz around it. And I think it is kind of working. It is sort of getting like word of mouth attention.
I saw the preview for it. I marked it down as a movie I wanted to watch. I would love for you to watch that movie at some point. We'll have it. We'll save it. We'll save the Substance.
Yes.
Okay, we'll save that. And maybe that'll be like a Halloween thing.
Could be.
Yeah, that'd be a good Halloween one.
That would actually not be a bad Halloween one at all.
If we can get it.
Tree of Life and Megalopolis. We're putting a stamp on it right here, right now for episode 81. Thank you guys for listening to episode 80 of the Neon Crew podcast. Mac looks the most despondent I think I've ever seen him. I think I've truly broken this man.
I have to watch this movie again.
I've put him through Fateful Findings. I've put him through Cat in the Hat.
Is it because I said the current one and you gave it a 5? Is that why? You could just tell me.
No, I've had Tree of Life on my list for a while.
It's a Malick film. You have to see it. And it was when this thing was coming out, it had such a huge budget around it. And I've talked about you know, when you talk about like things that have happened in your life, but it had like not traumatic enough to like not talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
This thing was traumatic enough for me to fucking be like, done.
Yeah. You thought you washed your hands of it, but
I did. I did.
Sorry, I'm pulling it back up from the sink, baby boy. If you guys don't want to be spoiled for either of those films, be sure to check them out before episode 81. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Neon Crew Podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel and give some 5-star ratings on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you haven't already. Be sure to check out our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube community page, where you'll find some memes, some engagement posts, asking for questions or questions for the audience, or whatever else I decide to come up with. And hopefully you guys like that sort of stuff. Shout out to Gideon for doing our music. Shout out to Lauren for doing our artwork. Shout out to Sam for the night call, if he had one this week. If not, we'll catch up on the next train ride, and hopefully he doesn't hit the brakes on it. Be sure to cop some merch from our Etsy page. You can find that in the description below. McLean, what do we say at this cheerful end of the episode?
In the famous words of George Westinghouse, WWTHD.
Bye, everyone.